It was an ordinary dinner. But after that, my personal war began, and I won it in a very unexpected way. Wait until the end to find out how. I had been dreaming of that moment for months, stepping back through the front door of our quiet Boise house, my boots crossing the threshold, my arms aching for the feel of my boy's hug and the scent of Jessica's hair as she ran into my arms. Deployment makes you hold on to moments like that like they're the last coins in your pocket. I'd replayed it over and over during long, sand-choked nights, thinking of how her eyes would light up when she saw me, how Ethan would run to me yelling, "Daddy!" That dream died in under 30 seconds. When I opened the front door, Jessica stood in the hallway, her face frozen with a wide-eyed, deer-in-headlights look that told me everything I needed to know before a single word was exchanged. Her hand instinctively went behind her back, as if to hide something, but she was too slow. I was already past her. My combat boots pounded across the old hardwood like war drums, and before I'd even crossed the living room, I heard the unmistakable creak of the bedroom closet door. Then came the soft, wet slap of bare feet and a flurry of movement. Derek. Derek, the bastard. Her co-worker. He came stumbling out of our bedroom like a drunk raccoon caught in the pantry. Jeans clutched to his waist and belt swinging loose, his mouth open but no words forming. He darted past me like a scared rabbit, eyes wide with fear, brushing my shoulder in his mad dash out the front door. I didn't stop him. I didn't say a damn word. My silence scared him more than shouting ever could. He knew what he'd done, and so did I. Jessica tried to say something, probably a lie rehearsed during every afternoon she spent screwing Derek in the bed, where Ethan used to jump into our arms on Saturday mornings. But I didn't hear it. My eyes landed on the antique rocking chair in the corner, her favorite. It was passed down from her grandmother. She never let Ethan touch it, said it was too special. I grabbed it with both hands and, with one roar, smashed it into the floor so hard it splintered like dry bone. She screamed. I didn't care. I walked out of the room before I did something I'd regret. My body moved on its own, carrying me down the hall and into the garage. It was colder there and darker. The only light was from the cracked window, the faint orange sun spilling through like the last warmth of a dying fire. My hands were shaking. I opened my toolbox just to keep them busy, just to focus on something. That's when I found it, tucked beneath the old wrenches and a faded oil rag, Jessica's diary. She must have thought that was a clever hiding spot. Maybe it was, once. But deployments change how a man sees the world. I didn't even hesitate. I sat on the old bench, flipped it open, and read. Every word cut deeper than the last. She wrote about how she planned to leave me once the army trip is done, like it was some errand. She called it the perfect chance to start fresh. She fantasized about life with Derek, how Ethan deserved a real father, not a broken soldier. That one nearly made me puke. Page after page, her handwriting mocked me, listing ways she could manipulate the divorce to take Ethan, even describing how she'd twist court records to look like I was unstable from deployment. I sat there for an hour, maybe more, while the garage grew darker and colder. My hands had stopped shaking, but inside me something had cracked clean through. She wanted to take my son and hand him off to some sleazy office fling like he was luggage. She was ready to gut our life without blinking. And now, thanks to that journal, I knew her game. But she didn't know I knew. Not yet. And that meant I had time. Time to move. Time to strike back. Not with fists or fire, but with precision. The sun had finally set by the time I came back inside. She was sitting on the couch, her hands twisted together like ropes, crying like the world had wronged her. She looked up at me, eyes red and full of staged sorrow. But I didn't say a word. I just stepped over the splinters of her chair, walked past her into Ethan's room, and sat beside his empty bed. He was sleeping at a friend's house that night. Thank God for that. At least he didn't have to see any of it. But tomorrow he'd be back, and I'd be ready. 2 weeks passed like a slow bleed, each day chipping away at what was left of the calm inside me. Jessica had started acting normal again, or at least pretending. She made breakfast like nothing had happened, left little reminders around the house, like we were still a family. An extra pillow on my side of the bed, A lunch packed in the fridge with my name on it. Ethan's drawings stuck to the fridge with magnets that read Home Sweet Home. It was all theater, and I let her play her role, smiled when I had to, nodded when she spoke. But every night after Ethan went to bed, I read more of her diary, memorizing every sick little paragraph. I knew her end game, and now I had a front row seat to the unraveling. The first real blow came from a ping on her phone, left face up on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. She'd left her notification previews on, rookie mistake, a pawn shop app. The screen flashed with an alert. Item listing approved, 1996 Ken Griffey Jr. Rookie card, $350. My stomach turned. That wasn't hers. That card was part of the collection Ethan and I built together since he was 5. A dozen more were listed. She was pawning them off. Our shared memories, those Saturday afternoons sifting through binders and sleeves, gone for gas money and cheap motel weekends with Derek. I didn't scream. I didn't rage. Instead, I sat down at my laptop and drafted a message. Clean and official looking, the kind that would scare someone who thought they were being clever. Hello, this is a notice from Twin Pine Pawn. Your recent listings have been flagged as potentially stolen property and are under review. I sent it from a spoofed email that looked close enough to the real thing. Then I waited. She took the bait by noon the next day. I heard her in the backyard, pacing in tight circles, hissing into her phone. She was calling Derek, and I couldn't hear his part, but her side was pure gold. You said this would be easy, she barked. It's not worth it for some damn baseball cards. This isn't what you promised me. Her voice cracked. I thought we'd be together by now. She hung up without waiting for his response. I watched through the baby monitor I'd hidden near the patio door. Audio capture worked like a charm, her voice crisp, her panic real. That file went straight into a backup folder with the others. I wasn't just playing games anymore. I was building a vault of truth, something the courts wouldn't be able to ignore when the time came. But I wasn't done. Ethan still thought his collection had been borrowed, an innocent excuse Jessica fed him, with that fake sweet voice she always used when she was lying. He missed those cards. I saw it in his eyes every time he looked at the empty shelf above his desk. So I made a call. I met with Coach Ramirez behind the dugout at Riverview Park on a cloudy afternoon. I told him I had some extra gear and asked if the team could use a donation. His eyes lit up when I opened the binder. These are real? He asked, flipping through the cards like he'd just found buried treasure. I nodded and told him Ethan wouldn't mind. Not really. The team could use them for fundraisers, trophies, anything. Just keep them safe. He agreed without asking questions. I shook his hand, locked the binder, and handed over a piece of Ethan's heart that deserved better than to rot in a pawn shop. Jessica never found out where the cards ended up, but later that week she stormed into the house, slamming her purse on the kitchen counter, her face twisted with frustration. My boss is asking questions, she snapped at no one in particular. Someone's been talking. She didn't know I'd sent an anonymous tip to HR, suggesting they look into her side hustles and extended absences. She blamed Derek, but I saw it in her eyes. Deep down, she knew the walls were starting to close in. Ethan sat at the table coloring a drawing of a Little League trophy. He looked up at her, confused by her sudden anger, then glanced at me. Is Mommy mad 'cause of baseball? He asked, voice soft. I reached over, mussed his hair, and forced a smile. Nah, buddy, she's just having a hard day. The best part was, the hard days were just beginning. I knew if I wanted to really knock her off balance, I'd have to hit her where she thought she had home field advantage, her family. For years, Jessica had built herself up as the golden daughter, the selfless mother, the loyal wife. Her parents adored her. Her sister, Rachel, idolized her. Every holiday, every cookout, every Sunday dinner was a stage where Jessica performed her sainthood, while I was the soldier who was always working through stuff. They never looked close enough to see the cracks, but I was going to make sure this time they couldn't look away. Her parents' Sunday dinners were a sacred tradition held in their perfectly curated home in the North End, where every shelf had some sentimental photo and every room smelled like rosemary and nostalgia. This week was supposed to be extra special. Linda, her mother, had planned a surprise slideshow of Ethan's latest school photos, complete with childhood clips from the family camcorder. Jessica had spent the whole week bragging about how proud her parents would be when they saw Ethan in his Little League uniform, his science fair medal, his art project about dinosaurs. I let her soak in that pride, let her ride it like a high, and then I gutted it. The trick was simple. I'd installed a tiny sync app onto Jessica's phone weeks ago, something designed for streaming media to smart TVs. Most people don't even notice the permissions these apps ask for. With a little recoding and the right timing, I linked her messages to the family living room screen. While the slideshow played photos of Ethan smiling in front of his school, suddenly up popped a message. Can't stop thinking about yesterday in the conference room. You taste better than I imagined. It was from Derek. Right beneath it, another one appeared. Maybe next time we do it in his truck. Bet that'd make it extra spicy. Gasps hit the room like shrapnel. The slideshow froze, and for a second, no one moved. Then Linda stood, mouth open, her hand covering her chest like she'd been shot. Rachel dropped her wine glass, the shatter loud enough to snap Jessica out of her trance. She jumped up, fumbling for the remote, trying to disconnect her phone, but it was too late. The damage was done. The image on the screen burned into everyone's memory. This isn't what it looks like, Jessica cried, but no one even answered her. She looked straight at me like I'd set the whole thing up, which of course I had, but I just shrugged. I was seated calmly next to Ethan, who was still coloring with crayons, oblivious to the storm swirling around him. Linda finally found her voice, and it was cold. Jessica, what is this? Tell me this isn't what it looks like. But Jessica, already cornered, did what she always did when caught. She lashed out. He did this, she screamed, pointing at me like I was the devil himself. He's manipulating everything. He's trying to turn you all against me. And just like that, the mask shattered. Her voice was raw, venomous, unhinged. Everything she'd kept bottled up about our marriage, her affair, her resentment, it all spilled out in a frenzy of excuses and finger-pointing. She didn't even notice that Ethan had stopped coloring and was staring at her, confused and frightened. Why's Mommy yelling? He asked me quietly. I put an arm around him, kissed the top of his head, and whispered, It's okay, buddy. Just keep coloring. Jessica's parents didn't even try to stop her. Rachel stood up and walked out. Linda sat down, her eyes glazed, stunned into silence. No one was coming to her defense. She had built her image like a cathedral, and I'd just burned it down with a screen mirror and a few tap texts. But I wasn't done. That night, while Jessica sulked in our room and Ethan slept between us on the bed, he'd insisted on it after the awkward drive home. I opened a new email thread. I wrote a carefully crafted message, making it look like Jessica had forwarded a confession to her sister Rachel. In it, I admitted to running up credit card debts behind her husband's back, buying supplies for Derek, and hiding financial statements. I dropped a few real numbers into the message, just enough to look authentic, and scheduled it to send from Jessica's account at 6 a.m. sharp. By 7:30, I heard her screaming into the phone. No, I didn't send that. I don't have secret debts. Rachel, you have to believe me. Her voice cracked, and then she choked out a sob. It was Rachel, of course, the one person left who might have still been in her corner. Not anymore. She turned to me after the call ended, eyes hollow, mascara streaking down her cheeks. What are you doing to me? She whispered. I didn't answer. I just walked into Ethan's room and closed the door behind me. Outside, the wind had picked up. A storm was coming, but inside I was finally warm. After the family dinner fallout, Jessica stopped pretending. The mask was gone, shattered into so many sharp pieces even she couldn't pick them up. But she still had one move left, the custody card. I saw it coming in the way she hovered over Ethan, smothering him with attention like she was suddenly the world's most devoted mother. Every scraped knee became a trauma. Every cough was serious. It was transparent, almost pathetic. But she wasn't doing it for Ethan. She was doing it for a judge. And then the email from the school landed in my inbox. A polite, concerned message from Mrs. Harding, Ethan's teacher. Michael, I wanted to check in about a few comments Jessica made regarding your recent deployment and its impact on your mental health. She mentioned you may be struggling. If there's anything the school can do to support Ethan, please let us know. My blood turned to ice. Jessica had been poisoning the well behind my back, whispering lies about me to Ethan's school, making me look like some unstable, dangerous veteran who couldn't be trusted alone with his own son. The nerve it took to weaponize my service, to twist something she never understood just to get an edge in court. I could have gone straight to her and unleashed hell. Instead, I picked up the phone and made a different kind of call. I reached out to an old buddy, Dave, who ran a local veteran support group, told him I wanted to work through some things and asked if he could arrange a small private meeting. He didn't need details. He just said he'd set it up and even invited a counselor he trusted, someone who worked with families. Perfect. I invited Jessica, told her it would be good PR for her custody case to see me getting help. She didn't even try to hide her smirk. She agreed immediately, probably thinking she could use whatever was said against me later. The meeting was in a rented church basement, the kind of room where the coffee always tastes like burnt rubber and the folding chairs creak if you breathe too hard. The counselor, a soft-spoken woman named Karen, started off asking me about my deployment. I gave her the truth, about the dust storms, the nights staring at photos of Ethan, the ache of missing birthdays and first home runs. I talked about the loneliness of coming home to a house that didn't feel like home anymore. She nodded, empathetic, taking notes. Then she asked Jessica how she'd been coping with the separation. Jessica flipped a switch. She put on a sad face, sighed, and said, "It's been hard. Michael, he's not the same. He comes back different, cold. Sometimes I worry about Ethan being alone with him." Karen's brow furrowed. "Has there been any incident that made you feel unsafe?" Jessica glanced at me, then back at Karen, fishing for words. "Well, not yet, but you hear stories. PTSD is a serious thing, and he won't admit he needs help." That's when Karen leaned forward, her tone shifting. "Michael, thank you for sharing earlier. I have to say your resilience is remarkable. Many soldiers struggle with reintegration, but you seem grounded, thoughtful. It's clear how much you love your son." Jessica's face twitched. Karen wasn't buying her act. Neither were the others in the room, including one guy I recognized as Derek's cousin, a wiry mechanic who looked like he'd been dragged there by his wife. His eyes flicked between us, like he'd just realized he was sitting on a powder keg. Jessica's smile cracked. She tried to steer the conversation back to my issues, but Karen redirected every time, gently but firmly, praising my parenting, my patience. Jessica grew more agitated with each passing minute until finally she snapped. "He's fooling you all," she hissed, standing up, her chair screeching. "You think he's so perfect, but you don't see what he's like at home." Karen raised a hand, calm but authoritative. "Jessica, perhaps you'd benefit from individual counseling as well. It sounds like you're carrying a lot of anger." That was it. Jessica stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I thanked Karen, shook a few hands, and left with a polite smile. But my pulse was electric, because later that night I leaked a fabricated PTSD evaluation to her lawyer's office. An anonymous tip about how Jessica had been exaggerating claims to gain custody, complete with fake notes hinting at her manipulation. I knew it would throw just enough doubt into her case to make her legal team sweat. By morning, Jessica's phone was buzzing nonstop. She stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. Her lawyer was probably scrambling, unsure what was real and what wasn't anymore. And I was just getting started. Jessica still clung to the illusion that she had allies left, that someone out there still bought her act. She leaned into appearances: doting mother, stressed wife, misunderstood woman. And when words failed her, she fell back on the one thing she still controlled: her book club. Thursday nights in our living room, her last little kingdom. She ruled it with wine, gossip, and that smug laugh that always came when she thought she'd won something. So I turned it against her. I had everything I needed: a clipped voicemail she left for Derek, one where she mocked Ethan's baseball dreams and called me a washed-up soldier playing dad. I'd pulled the audio weeks earlier off the baby monitor near the patio. I edited it into a clean, cruel loop, then hijacked the living room Bluetooth speaker using the router. She never noticed the transmitter I'd hidden in the utility cabinet. At 8:12 p.m., just as her club passed around another bottle of Chardonnay, the speaker crackled to life. He's not going to the MLB. The kid can't catch. Michael's not some damn hero. His baseball dreams are pathetic. Her voice, her words echoed across the room. Confusion spread first, nervous glances, then silence. Linda, her mother, sat right there on the couch. Her expression went hollow. One woman asked if it was part of the book's audio. Another stood and quietly grabbed her purse. Jessica scrambled toward the rotor, yanking cords, screaming at the ceiling like she could shout the sound away. In her panic, she shoved one of the guests, Terry, a quiet lady from 3 houses down, who stumbled into the bookshelf, knocking down a framed photo of Ethan. Upstairs, Ethan had heard the shouting. He came down the stairs in his pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Why's Mommy yelling?" he asked me, voice small. I scooped him into my arms before he saw too much. "She's just upset," I told him, brushing hair from his face. "Let's go read something better." I got him settled back upstairs, the little plastic baseball bat still beside his bed. When I came down, the guests were gone. Wine glasses half full, jackets forgotten. Linda had walked out too. I didn't stop there. I sent the audio, just a snippet, to Linda's phone. No message, just the file. It took 5 minutes for Jessica's phone to ring. She answered and froze. Her knees gave out a second later, and she just sat on the floor, staring at nothing. Whatever Linda said, it ended with Jessica whispering, "Please," over and over, but no one was listening anymore. That night, she didn't come to bed, didn't speak, didn't even cry. The silence between us said enough, and for the first time, it felt like she was finally alone. Jessica had no idea how deep I'd already dug under her skin. She thought the storm had passed, thought silence meant surrender. She still clung to control, barely, trying to hold her image together with brittle smiles and frantic routines. But every time she reached for stability, I twisted the knife. She loved control. She hated chaos. So I gave her chaos where everyone could see it. It started with her grocery pickup. Something small, something she didn't think twice about. She always ordered online, always picked up on Saturdays. I had access to her account. It was a habit from deployment, helping her with shopping lists. Now it became the perfect doorway. I logged in and replaced her order with nonsense. 50 cans of tuna, 5 pounds of chopped liver. Baby formula. Ethan hadn't needed it in years. Enough adult diapers for a care facility. She never checked the confirmation email. Just drove down like usual. Ethan in the back seat, expecting her cart full of organic produce and sparkling water. She called me from the parking lot. The first 10 seconds were confusion, then screaming. "What the hell is this?" she shrieked, loud enough for the phone to buzz in my ear. "They said I ordered all this trash, diapers and tuna? I look insane." I muted my end. Let her rant into silence. What she didn't know was that I tipped off the store earlier that morning, told them she was a regular with a record of disturbances. The manager had flagged her name just in case. So when she lost it, cursing at the teenage employee wheeling out the cart, throwing 2 cans onto the pavement, the store didn't just apologize. They called security. Ethan watched the whole thing from the car window, his small face, pale, confused. Jessica kept shouting, wild and flailing, as a manager came out to ask her to leave the property. Ethan curled tighter into the back seat, and the drive home was dead quiet. When she stormed through the door, I was sitting at the table, sipping coffee. "What did you do?" she asked, eyes wide, breath heaving. I just looked past her and said, "Your son saw everything." That was the only time she hesitated, really hesitated, but she still didn't apologize. Couldn't. People like her never did. They just recalculated. So I hit her again. I sent a fake credit freeze notification to her phone. Looked like it came from her bank. She opened it in front of me. The color drained from her face. "Suspicious activity on all financial accounts." It read, "Assets temporarily frozen pending review." She spiraled. In 2 minutes, she was on the phone with her bank, barking through the security prompts. I walked out of the room before she realized nothing had been touched yet. Not the accounts, not the credit cards, not yet. She stayed up all night clicking through statements, muttering to herself, tearing through drawers like she could solve a puzzle that didn't exist. and with every second I knew the weight was getting heavier. The next morning, Ethan sat at the table with his cereal. He looked up and asked, "Mommy's mad again?" I nodded slowly. "She's just not herself right now." He stared into his bowl, then whispered, "She scares me sometimes." I didn't know what to say. My hands shook under the table, not with rage anymore, but sadness. A deep, cold sadness I couldn't shake. But I didn't let it stop me, because the end was close now. She'd spent months playing chess with people's lives, thinking she'd always be 5 moves ahead. Now she couldn't even find the board. Thanksgiving had always been Jessica's favorite holiday. She liked the attention, the compliments on her table settings, the perfectly staged photos of turkey and pie on social media. It was her yearly showcase, her performance art. But this year it wasn't a celebration. It was the stage for her collapse. The house was full. Her parents, her sister Rachel, a few extended relatives, even some neighbors she'd begged to come just to keep up appearances. Ethan had drawn a crayon turkey that we taped to the wall near the dining room, and I'd helped him color it the night before. He was proud of it. Innocent. Everything else about that day was a lie. Jessica moved through the house like she was floating, forcing smiles, making polite conversation that cracked every time someone looked at her too long. No one trusted her anymore. Her family watched her like a stranger. Even Linda barely spoke. Rachel wouldn't make eye contact. But Jessica still acted like she could hold it all together with wine and stuffing and a perfect glaze on the ham. Until dessert. That's when I stood. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to shout. I just turned on the Bluetooth speaker on the table. It buzzed to life and played something new. Jessica's voice, but not just her mocking Ethan. This was from the diary. She had recorded a voice memo months ago, a sort of personal journal entry where she laid out everything. Her plans, her reasons, her disgust. "I'm just tired of pretending. Michael is broken. Deployment just made it worse. I can't keep wasting my life on a man who doesn't know how to be happy. I want out. I want Ethan to have someone strong, someone real. Derek understands me. I'm going to make it happen after Thanksgiving." A cold silence froze the table. The knife in Linda's hand clattered against her plate. Jessica's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her face turned a sick, pale gray. She looked to her father. He turned away. She looked at Rachel. She shook her head. "I didn't," she started. "You did," I said flatly. And then the front door knocked. 2 officers stood outside, polite but firm. They were there on a report I'd filed weeks ago about fraud, theft, and forged signatures, pawn shop evidence, voicemails, recordings. Jessica had slipped just enough, said just enough, to leave a trail of crumbs. The investigation was already open. That day they came with questions and a warrant. Her voice cracked as they cuffed her. "Wait, please. This is a mistake. I didn't mean... Michael, please. Ethan..." Ethan had been standing in the hallway holding a drawing of his turkey, watching with wide, unblinking eyes. I knelt beside him. "I love you, Daddy," he said quietly. "I love you too, buddy," I whispered. "Let's go make some hot cocoa." As the squad car pulled away, neighbors stood on their lawns watching the wreckage. Her perfect world, the one she had guarded with fake smiles and lies, was gone. Her mask had turned to ash in front of everyone she ever tried to impress. That night, Ethan and I built a blanket fort in the living room. We sat under it with cocoa and cookies, a flashlight between us and cartoons on mute. He laughed while lining up his toy soldiers. The war in our home was over, but I still felt the weight of it in my chest. Victory never felt like revenge. It felt like survival, and I had survived. So had Ethan. And Jessica? She finally got what she earned. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.